Hi everyone, welcome to today's lesson. This is the second in our series on charcoal portrait drawing. Last week we blocked in the head, then we found all the major landmarks and some simple shapes to sort of create a general suggestion of the figure. So this week we will be adding shadow shapes, so working off the reference that you can see next to this video. I'm just going to be looking for those parts of the portrait that are either locally quite dark, which includes the top and the hair, so the local colour, the colour, kind of inherent colour of that part of the subject is dark. And I'm also going to be looking for the flesh tones in shadow, so those flesh tones that don't receive any direct light, and also erasing our construction lines at that point. So we're using the construction, the envelope, as a platform to build our shadows over. We'll be keeping our shadows simple. As always, we keep things simple as much as possible for the time being. So let's get started. If we look at this face, you can see that obviously our hair is all going to be in dark, so I could almost just shade in the hair and the top, but I'm going to try to combine the shadows just to it's always good to reinforce this point of how you merge shadows together and you separate them out from the lights. So the first thing I need to do is find this major shadow shape on the head that then connects down to a shadow shape on the neck. So let's get started with that now. I can use previous changes of direction and landmarks to block in my shadows, so we can see that there's this little triangle shape of shadow on the left hand side of the face that then drops down at an angle. This runs down to the center of the nose, so got another little angle there. And at this point I'm going to just lighten off those initial construction lines, because they will get in the way if you keep them there. So I then know, using my vertical alignments, that the shadow on the bottom of the nose juts up ever so slightly, and it also sits, maybe not quite that far, but it sits to the right of this bridge of the nose. So I'm not too worried about what the nose is necessarily doing. I'm just thinking about the shadow shapes that make up the nose. So I'm merging all of this shadow shape together, as you can see. Again, I can get rid of these construction lines. I am going to need to find this negative light shape within the shadow, but initially we're just going to find this shadow edge. So I'm looking and making minor adjustments as I go. So I'm going to immediately drop down to the shadow on the neck as well. Because that connects. Again, still keeping it simple. And that can just connect and merge into the top. That will also merge up into the hair shape where it all connects. So I want to erase all the boundaries between this shadow shape. Just make it really clear how we're constructing this drawing. So what remains to do before we shade this in and have a look at how it's going is we want to find the light shape here that defines the eye that's just catching light. There's also a tiny little light shape on the left cheek. We also want to start blocking in shadow shapes for this eye shape on this side. So I'm using my alignments. I can work horizontally across from this left eyebrow. Think a little bit about what tilt I need. And drop that over. We've got the shape of that eyebrow emerging. Then you can start to sort of roughly, not put detail in, but just think about the direction, so where the eye is dropping down to the bottom of its form is, how that connects. Just thinking a little bit about the socket that the eye fits into. I mean, don't have to be super accurate, as accurate as we can. So we've got, becomes almost like a little forked shadow shape. Now that becomes, or this should become, the basis for our shadow shapes and dark shapes where the eyebrow is on this side of the face. We can use that, so we know the angle. Again, this is where we're going to have another eyeball passing through. But we can sort of just, I'm going to blur my eyes and I'm going to look for, I know that angle, these angles mostly kind of echo the outside shape, so the form sort of wraps around here. So that pretty much discovers for us a light shape that we can work from in the next session. I'm sure we'll have to make some adjustments as you'd always expect, but it's not too bad. Got that other little light shape on the other side too. So, the moment of truth, now that we've got all the shapes blocked in, is to merge all this together. Just going to erase all of our construction, and then we're just going to put a light tone, working really light, barely putting a tone on at all, because we're going to have to make adjustments, we're going to have to work over the top of this. And we're just going to give a shade in these shapes. And you can already see, just with those really basic shadow shapes, the face is starting to emerge. And it gives us a really solid platform to work on in subsequent sessions. So once you've got these shapes in, you can then spend a little bit of time just making slight alterations. I'm not going to do too much during this session, I'll do a bit more the next session that we work on this. But you will find that when you have the line drawing in, certain things that become a lot more apparent as issues, or certain things won't be so visible with the line drawing compared with once the shapes are actually in place. So once it's roughly there, you can spend time kind of adding a few more directional changes to the shapes. So obviously I started with a pretty simple set of shapes. We can start to add a bit more detail to the outside of these shapes now that we've got a better idea of how they actually look. So it starts to become a bit more naturalistic. You can see even just those kind of minor adjustments. Oh, just realised actually I'm missing one quite important shape, and that's the right hand nostril shape. So it's worth taking a little look over stuff to see if you've missed anything like that. It's a simple little shape, but it's quite important for kind of setting the width of the nose. That may actually be a little bit too big. No, it's not too bad, it's only ever so slightly off. It's a bit better. And we're going to have that a little bit of the nose wrap under, but that's something we'll look at next week. So yeah, we can leave it there for today, but it's a really good initial start. This is what you're after. So if you're working alongside me in this workshop, this is the stage that you want to get up to with your own portrait. And it's really important, if you can really nail this stage in your drawings and your paintings, you'll find it a lot easier to do the latter stages. So it's really important to practice this sort of thing. So that you can get really confident with it. But yeah, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.